George Washington to a Moroccan leader talking about that. George Washington was talking about the Fraternal Lodge and that they were all part of it together. And so what Noble Drew Ali did, after all that ugly anti-black sentiment that was going on by the fraternal groups, he said, well, I'll start my own, and I have this letter from George Washington saying we are the original people there. And he started that group. It sustained, and this Peter Lamborn Wilson wrote a lot about him and all that, and it's a really fascinating story. So but he became a type of a Shriner with the Moorish Science Temple, he called it. Here's more. These are the Red Men, the improved order of the Red Men, I guess they call themselves. And there's white people dressing up in the gear of you know, Native Americans. And what's interesting is their laws forbid the inclusion or the membership of any Native Americans. Again, this is a reflection of the anti-women sentiment there. On the lower left, you can see the man overseeing the subordinate order here of Freemasonry. This is the Job's Daughters, they're called. And then this is from a Freemasonic magazine, Why Women Cannot Become Masons. And that article is just trying to show women why that is the case and why it's good for everybody, you know. Of course, there are woman-based organizations. There's the Seroptimists, the woman-based version of the Optimist Club. This is a very interesting thing because there was only one coordinated biracial order, or not bisexual order, the two sexes. The men and women could belong to the Co-Masonry Lodge. This was begun by Annie Besant of the Theosophical Society. And they had lodges in both Canada and America at the time. Very small, limited order, but pretty remarkable at the time, you know, the late 19th century, where they said that women and men are on the same level there. There was a family-oriented, Masons were very family-oriented. There's one of the magazines, and it's the Eye of the Triangle and all that, the ritualism combined with family material. Here's a more woman-oriented group called the Royal Neighborhood. It was all based on taking care of the children and all that stuff. Here, the Freemasons will tell you they have no interest whatsoever in politics. None. Well, this is one of their posters. Here's the Shriners. Of course, they're not involved with politics whatsoever. Shriners, there was in a Shriners magazine I found, they listed hundreds of congressmen as being part of the Shriners bloc, B-L-O-C, the bloc. They control Congress. Shriners control Congress. Yay! You know, J. Edgar Hoover there, right? And the guy shaking hands with, I think his name is Klein Schmidt, who was the head of the Shriners organization at the time. This is very interesting too. Andrew Mellon there is doing a cornerstone ritual with the trowel there, you see that. And on that stone, the cornerstone, is his name, Secretary of the Treasury. That's a government building. It's like this rich banker owns the Treasury building, IRS building. It's fascinating and a Masonic ritual to create it. Here's another major Freemason, Harry Truman, woman who painted his portrait. There's FDR. I think that's a Jefferson Memorial building, a cornerstone ritual he was enacting there. Okay, what this is, we're going to get into the weirder stuff now. This is an initiation magazine or a catalog that was given to people who they were having fun initiating fellow Freemasons and Woodmen of the World or Red Man and all these orders. And there was one major company that did a lot of these things. There were many companies actually, but this was the best in my opinion. They were called the De Moulin Brothers. There are books that came out with some of their catalogs in 1903, and you will see some images from them and to show you how crazy cool they were. Like the hoodwinks we saw. That was part of the ritual, and they come by them from those catalogs. Here, there's like prankish type things. Get on your knees, mofo. The skeleton will blow it out in your face. Woodmen of the World ritual. I'm not sure if anyone actually got sawn to death, but this is amazing ritual. Who would willingly get under a guillotine? I've always wondered about that. I couldn't find any answer to that question. This is a common lithograph at the time that Shriners gladly and happily put up in their houses, showing I got through the initiation process, still alive and beat the hell up, but I'm so pleased. Some costumes of the gear. This is a Shriner's ritual being enacted here. And also, the Shriners, what's interesting about them, they're obsessed with becoming clowns. They have their own magazine, Clown Alley. Still going on for Shriners clowns. Here's Shriners clowns with some really happy young people. Here's some others. And they give these certificates out to the Shriners clowns who made children happy in those Shriner hospitals. Now we're at Bohemian Grove. The biggest ceremony there, you know, that the VIPs, men only VIPs, go to this Russian River location place in California. And it's pretty amazing. And the ritualism came from, they did a lot of performance of plays and all that, in a Bohemian lodge, I think they call it, in the Nob Hill area. But then there's the this campground they went out to, and this has become like, you know, conspiracy theory on all the TV stations now. But the major element, the major thing they did was to burn this owl art thing you see in the background. And then once they do that, sort of like Burning Man in a way, they would cremate their care there. And all the world's worries just drop off, and they can drink and carry on and have sex with the men they import there for that purpose. Here's a Bohemian Grove ceremony of a hanging. They're having fun, obviously. Here's a kind of a transvestite things they put on. Only men were there, so they had to enact the women's roles as well. Here's a Fraternal Order of Police journal. This shows you what the patches worn by cops and highway patrol to show you who did they serve, the state or the Fraternal Order. That Prince Hall one's pretty spectacular, spooky one. Scimitar is an online magazine. I think that sometimes printed copies for Middle East vets. And it's interesting, the Scimitar, of course, is a Shriner's concept. But this is a magazine. It's not thought to be a fraternal order magazine. But what's all that mean? What's going on here? In Masonic lore and Shriner's lore in the past, there was a fixation on the Middle East, a fixation on Baghdad, a fixation on Jerusalem, the Temple of Solomon, on all these various issues of the Middle East. And so there's a particular, they're drawn to these ideas of the Middle East. That's Caliph of Baghdad was a book that was sold solely through Masonic groups. Here's a cartoon in a 20s Shriner's magazine, and they're all waiting to get out to Baghdad. Is it just coincidental that this Iraq or like Mideast things carrying on these days particularly? You have to ask yourself. The conspiratorial aspect of it is also interesting. Here's Earl Warren of Earl Warren Commission. And he was, of course, a 33rd degree Freemason. And of course, their opposition is Catholics, and JFK was a Catholic. But every single member of the Warren Commission was a Freemason. Is that a total coincidence? Maybe. Lyndon Johnson was a brother, too. And Buzz Aldrin, who brought a flag to the moon, was also a major Mason. And that's the flag he brought to the moon and back.
Oh my God.
Okay, this is a sort of a joke at the expense of Freemasons and Shriners. They supposedly had a secret or god called Jabbalon in Masonic rituals and textbooks. But that's how we're going to end the conversation, having fun at the expense of fraternal orders. And they were, by the way, I'm totally pro fraternal orders. They did a lot of good work, did good things for people. They served the core of American people at a time when the government was not doing that at that time. And then, you know, what do you say? It's a bizarre thing. It's a reflection of all of America. But thank you. And if you want to get Ritual America, I think we still have a few copies out there in there. But thank you for coming. Any questions? Yeah.
What's the origin of that painting?
I don't know the origin of that painting.
You mentioned Joseph's daughters, but not the Eastern Star. How significant were these sort of parallel female?
Order of the Eastern Star, yeah, that's different from many women's organizations because I think men could also belong to that as well. And it's mainly created for African American public, but these white people are also involved in that. But it was, I don't know, it's yet another type of Masonic type order that goes on with Masonic type rituals. At one point, there were 600 different, you know, fraternal order type things for men and women and so on. It's really hard to divide it out. There's just so many, so many millions of people belong to so many. Yes?
How was William Morgan killed?
He was drowned. He was thrown over a cliff, they thought, and drowned in a rushing river in northern United States, perhaps in Canada. Yes?
So I've heard rumors that modern street gangs take some of their structure, their signs, their handshakes, things like that, from Masonic or quasi-Masonic or those societies from the past. Can you speak to that at all?
Sure. Knight Templar, there's a Mexican cartel called Knight Templar, and they wear Knight Templar uniforms. And the guy who's in charge of that the Spanish word for goat. That's his name. Again, think about the goat situation and tie-ins. There's